Jeb's got the listings lined up in a row. Josh brings the numbers, making dreams grow. First-time buyers stepping through the door. Keys to the castle, they're what we're here for. Navigating through the home buyer's maze. Educated steps in a world full of haze. The podcast is rolling with wisdom to share, helping you settle in your new lair. Navigating through the home buyer's maze. Educated steps in a world full of haze. The podcast is rolling with wisdom to share, helping you settle in your new lair. Jeb and Josh, they're paving the way. Dreams to reality, they make it day. From the first hello to the closing sign, your journey to home is looking divine. Down, the numbers make sense. Jeb shows the vision beyond the white fence. Teamwork like this is rare to find, helping you leave all your doubts behind. They talk about homes and talk about life, cutting through the stress and the buyer's strife. With every word they light up the spark, guiding you through when the road feels dark. Jeb and Josh, they're paving the way. Dreams to reality, they make it day. From the first hello to the closing sign, your journey to home is looking divine.
Happy Wednesday. Welcome to another week of the Educated HomeBuyer live back on Wednesday. So sorry for all the confusion switching to Tuesday. Now back to Wednesday. We just
maybe we'll go Thursday next week. Did you see how it goes?
No, we're back to Wednesdays at 5 o'clock going forward. If I can't make it or Josh can't make it, then one of us will just do the show without the other. That way there's no confusion on times and all of that good stuff. It's just easier. This is what you guys know. This is what you guys expect. And we want to keep it consistent so that you guys are happy and, we're getting your questions answered moving forward. So with that, guys, welcome back. Josh, Wednesday, your favorite day of the week. How is it?
It was not going great, but then I heard my song and I was like, this is a great day. It's a good day.
It's a great day to be alive. I look completely like I'm washed out here. I've got the sun. Look at this thing.
It looks like the sun. I'm thinking that somehow your light got cranked up is what happened.
No, dude, look, I'll turn this light off. Watch this.
Is it coming like right through the crack in the blind?
No, it's coming through the actual blind itself.
That's wild.
It is pretty wild, but it is what it is. So anyway, you guys don't care about that. You care about your questions and the economy, and we are going to talk about that as we always do. We're going to start with some slides, and we're going to answer your questions. So do us a favor. If you're just joining in, make sure you put your questions in the chat so that we can answer them and help guide you guys through what has been somewhat of a, I guess, kind of a calm market, Josh, over the last week since the
if the government shuts down and there's no data, everything's calm. Which is act like nothing's happening.
Very, very complacent. Like everybody's happy with just status quo. So, but we're gonna be talking about that in a little bit more detail. Any housekeeping items, Josh? I feel like there was something, and I don't remember what it was, but
I was going to say, if we're going to put up a poll today, the poll that I want is, do any of you use the subscribe and save on Amazon? It makes me mad that they offer me these discounts, but then I have to deal with their timing, which it always seems to either be too soon or too late that it arrives for me.
You are correct. I do use the subscribe and save, and it does. Both of those arrive late and early. So I just figured if it arrives early enough, then at some point I'll cancel it and I'll have a kind of a plethora that I can go through. And then at some point we do it again. But
what you need to do is schedule, because I did have like 4 or 5 things on it and it just irritated me. I cut them off. You need to set yourself a little reminder every month to go and look at what's coming and either make them come sooner or push them off.
There you go. Good advice, Josh. Just like the housing advice.
Words of wisdom.
Pearls of wisdom. Here we go. So we're going to start. So tonight's episode is talking about 15 states signaling a little softer housing market. So at the moment, there are 15 states back to pre-pandemic levels, back to where we were in 2019. And if you can't read this chart, understandable. The words are very, very small. So what we've done here is taken those 15 and we've put them up here on the screen so that you can take a look at them. But basically what we're looking at is Tennessee, Texas, Colorado, Arizona, Washington, Florida. I'm having a really hard time reading this thing, Josh. Utah,
Idaho, Oklahoma, Nevada, Hawaii, Nebraska, Oregon, Alabama, North Carolina, and Arkansas. If you call it Oregon, it makes the Oregonians really mad.
Oh, I love that. We do that from now on. Let's just piss people off all over the US, Josh. No, we don't want to do that. It's Oregon. But anyhow, so those states are back to pre-pandemic levels. The last one, what Arkansas, 0%. So it's kind of even, but up at the top, Tennessee, Texas, some of these, quite a bit more inventory than, in 2019. So those are going to be softer markets probably where you're seeing more deals happen. Buyers have leverage as opposed to, where we are here in Southern California, Josh, not a lot of leverage for buyers at the moment. Things seem to be selling still pretty quickly at or above the asking price. Still a lot of people sitting on the fence waiting for the right home to come to the market because, quite frankly, inventory is kind of dissipated from, the highs that we saw, which is normal for this time of year. And with that, things are kind of just naturally slowing down on the inventory front.
This is anecdotal, so always take it for what it's worth when we're saying just what we see. But what I generally find, the buyers that I'm working with are fairly particular. I'm not saying they want a perfect house. I'm saying that they, for the most part, and this has been sort of post-pandemic, when money is tighter, qualifying is tighter, all of your money's going towards the down payment, and not having a lot of money to do upgrades afterwards. People are wanting the homes that are upgraded, updated, that look a little bit nicer. So I don't doubt that there are homes out there that are sitting, lingering, and selling at discounts. What I can say is, for the most part, the buyers that I'm dealing with, we've talked about before, they're buying homes that are well below the median price in the area, which is where more demand is right now, and
Sure.
they're gravitating to the nicer homes in that price point. So,
like you said, anecdotal, right? I mean, $1.2 million in Arkansas, people are like, you're crazy. That's a lot of money, and it probably buys you a lot of house on a lot of land. Here in Southern California, it's cookie cutter. It's basic. It's not what you think of as $1 million home for most of the country. So it just, things for us are a little bit different than, other parts of the country, and same for them versus us here. So just make sure you're following your local market and paying attention. And there's some cool tools to do that, especially now with some of the new data things that we have, which we can talk about here in just a second. But it'll actually be when we talk about this. So this is Zillow's heat map of the hottest markets out there. And I think they look at what how many 200 top metros or something, Josh, something along those lines. So your purple is going to be your neutral markets where basically buyers, sellers kind of equal. As you start to get into a reddish tint, we're going to start with that peachy color. And that's a kind of a warm market, whereas red is going to be a hot market, and then the bluers are colder markets. So you can see just pockets kind of spread all over the US. It's not, if you would have showed this map in 2021, the entire damn thing probably would have been red
just
to some
degree,
fire, whereas now, obviously, considerably slower than it was. But again, there are pockets out there that are still hot. So if you're in one of those markets, if you're in one of those little squares and that's your square, then you got to pay a little bit more attention to that data because it pertains more to you. But with that said, we often talk about working with real estate agents in your market that understand this data. There's a link scrolling in the bottom of the screen where, if you want, I'm happy to connect you with somebody that does business like I do. I've connected probably 50 plus people this year alone. A lot of people go under contract and end up closing. But the reason I bring this map up and some of the data up is Resi Club, the same company who produced this map, now lets you go granular on the data. So if you're in a market and that you're just like wondering, hey, what's happening in my market, we can actually pull that data up for you. So and if we can't, the agent that we refer you to, we can make sure that they have access to it so they can pull it up for you as well. So anyhow, thought that was helpful. Inventory overall more or less flat, 862 to 863. I mean, more or less 1,000 homes week over week, still kind of moving flat. The gap between last year and this year is continuing to kind of get closer and closer together, smaller and smaller gap now, 17.66% more inventory than this time last year. that number will continue to move lower as we get closer to the new year. New listings, or actually talking about Huntington Beach and Orange County. So I didn't put the percentages on the charts here, but Orange County was down slightly, less than a 1%, sitting at 4,433 homes. So basically flat week over week for the most part. Huntington Beach ticked up just a little bit. I think it was a couple of percent, 2% or something. I think we went from 264 to 270 homes. So 6 homes, again, just less than 3% on that. So inventory kind of just bouncing back and forth. We're probably not going to go back over those highs that we've seen this year. And I would, guess that we're going to continue to see this sideways downward movement as we head into the holiday season. New listings, again, not going to really get into too much information here, but still up year over year. Weekly pending sales still up year over year. Price reductions basically moving sideways here at 41.8%. That spread, Josh, that we talked about last week, saw a small uptick. I don't know what the actual number is. Where we at, like 2.2 something right now? Where are we?
235, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, so somewhere in that range. And chances are probably going to continue to see something like that unless some crazy data comes out, which we don't have. So this is taking a look at the markets that have been impacted the most with regard to the change from the highs that we saw back in, I think it was 2021 or 2022, just where we've come from that point, overall in those markets.
Is this purchase or sale price, Jeb?
This is, I think it's, median price, probably. Median sales price is my guess. I don't remember 100%, but I think it is. But Punta Gorda seems to be like, in everything we look at, like the worst market. But then you get agents on here in Punta Gorda say, it's not that bad. I don't know what's happening. But, if you look at the first, 5 up there, 4 of those 5 are in Florida. So, and if you start going down, it's a lot of Texas, a lot of Florida. That's where you see the majority of those, but those are also the markets that saw the biggest gain as well. So even with these downward moves in prices, those markets are still up compared to prior to the pandemic. So it's, you hear crashing, you hear all of this sort of thing, and it's more of a, hey, listen, we're giving back some of the craziness that we had during that period of time, which was to be expected. Josh, this, one of the things you and I hear a lot is that, institutional investors own everything, and that's who you're competing against, and it's BlackRock and all of these things. And Logan from Housing Wire has been, smart to point out that BlackRock doesn't actually own any real estate at all. They actually own 0 properties, but they own entities that do own some property. So you're not competing directly against BlackRock and any of this stuff, but this basically just shows where those markets are located, where the majority of markets, investors that own it, I think at least 100 homes, where their focus is, and in this chart, and with regards to owning the most single family homes. Arizona, Maricopa County, obviously one of those hot markets where rental demand is high, prices were low for a long period of time. But you guys can take a look at that chart just to see if your market's on there, because if so, there's a chance that that's who your competition is. But for the majority of us watching, that's not our competition. And this is just another look at that same chart, Josh. Is this, did you throw this one in there, or did I throw this one in?
You threw it in. It's the map is cool because you see the darker areas are where this is. So if you're in, like you said, Maricopa County, if you're in one of these areas that's darker there, it is absolutely going to feel like they're in the market because they've been buying more recently. So from that perspective, not a big factor nationally, but regionally there are.
If you're in North Dakota or South Dakota,
you're safe.
You're safe. You have no competition from institutions.
Most of Montana
or Maine.
Maine,
you have none. There's very little in those markets. But anyway,
so not a whole lot of data with the government shutdown. So wanted to just go back and look at some things. So we've talked about this before. Americans aren't moving as much anymore. So in a given year, on the left side of that chart was 1994. So this is over the last 30 years. In a given year, 17% of Americans would move. That's down to 8%. That's like half of the movers. Of those that move, about half of them move within the same county. And then you look at the numbers that are same state, different county, different state. Those numbers are just way, way down in terms of moving. So mobility impacts a lot of things. It impacts home sales. It impacts movers. It impacts Home Depot, things of that sort. So it tells us that you have some stagnation in the overall economy. And that's sort of a tailwind that we'll be looking at until people get more mobile. Some of this has to do with work from home and your ability to stay wherever you are and do a job or find another job without having to relocate to it. But it'll be interesting to see what that does over the long haul, because mobility is overall positively correlated to the economy. Some of this comes down to interest rate lock-in. This chart, Jeb, was pretty interesting. Going back to the early 80s, when rates spiked way, way, way up, lock-in was much, much worse than it is right now. But lock-in is a real thing. So the better part of from 1984 through 2023, no one was really locked in. Very low lock-in pressure because home prices hadn't increased that much while rates were going up. And if we look at that, we are going to look at it here in the next chart here, or the one after that. You can see we basically had a 40-year period of rates going nowhere but down. So even though home prices were going up, interest rates were going down. So moving and mobility was generally pretty affordable. What you can see over here on the right side is that the lock-in pressure is easing as rates have come down a little bit. But until we get back down to that blue, it's likely to see what we talk about here all the time, Jeb, annual home sales, existing home sales in that 4 million range versus the 5 or 6 million. Where do people feel the most locked in? Again, the darker here is most locked in, to the lighter is the less locked in. And my theory here with this is the darker states are generally higher price states. In those higher price states, people are more likely to refinance. So if you have a $100,000 loan in Oklahoma and it's at 6% and rates go to 4%, that's nice, but it's not hey, I have to do this. Whereas if you're in San Jose and you have $1 million home, you absolutely need to jump on that and take advantage.
Josh, I feel locked in for different reasons. I feel locked in to California because of the weather. I feel like if the weather was better in other parts of the country, I wouldn't care about my rate. I wouldn't care about any of that. I could make the move and figure it out. But
if the weather was
not
better in other parts of the country, your home would not be worth as much because people would happily locate themselves in other parts of the country.
That's fair. That is fair.
So I like the look at this, and kind of what just jumped out at me. You can see, obviously, everyone knows on the right side, since 2022, rates have spiked, subsided a little bit, but still near that. But if you see the little gray horseshoe there, upside down field goal post, says rates remained below 5% during the ZIRP era. That's zero interest rate policy, where the government was buying many treasuries, many mortgage-backed bonds to stimulate the economy. And people look at that and go, well, they're never going to do that again. They can't do that. We have too big of deficits. So we're never going to see rates that low. But if you look, well, prior to that, that was a long and defined downtrend. Our friend Lacey Hunt over at Hoisington Investment, he's about due for his quarterly report, still believes that all of the underlying trends that were leading rates lower are still in place. So that doesn't mean that they're going back down to 2 and 3%, but it tells us that that downtrend may not have seen the end of its days. There's debate on this. We have two different camps of economists out there. One that thinks the excessive debt from the government is going to push rates to the moon, and the other thinks it's going to slow growth and push rates down because of disinflation. So we'll see. We'll see.
Well, we actually got the yearly debt today. It was at 1.9 trillion, I believe, and they were like, well, it's basically the same. Like nothing's changed year over year. It only improved by $8 billion, Josh. It improved by $8 billion, and that means nothing because
it's a rounding error in 1.9 trillion.
Is that crazy? Like I was thinking about that. I'm like, $8 billion is a lot of money, and it really means nothing. Zero. Anyway.
So government shut down, but that doesn't mean our friends at Truflation are shut down. It would be interesting to see how much of the underlying data they run the Truflation numbers off of our government statistics. But anyways, we're up to 2.26 from 2.20 a week ago. This is a volatile series. You can just see just since June here, we've had drops all the way well under 2% to like 1.85, and then runs up to like the 2.3 range. Over time, this will give us a good indication and tell us what's happening with inflation. It appears to be a choppy, sideways, slightly uptrend, but time will tell. What are the futures market betting on interest rates? Still thinking a 95% chance we're getting a cut next month, and then an 80% chance at one of the next two meetings. So Fed cuts are already there. We've talked about this a little bit. Fed cuts absent a recession, or a recession coming shortly after those Fed cuts, don't generally lead to much lower interest rates. So we haven't seen rates dip a whole heck of a lot when we went from 70 to 95% chance of a cut at the next meeting. So we'll see. We need the government to open back up and give us some data to move those lower. So rates pretty much flat over the last week, flat over the last month, definitely about 0.25% better over the last year. But rates are at good levels, not quite as good as we had after the Fed meeting. But again, really well qualified borrowers are getting better rates than this. So, I mean, to the point, a listener here, Jeb, we have in escrow in Texas that is probably, it was going to go USDA, but because of the government shutdown, is likely not going to be able to close on time on new construction. And the builder said, hey, figure it out. So figuring it out, we just looked at the FHA, and for him, with a very good credit score, 0 points, 5.625 on an FHA. So take that chart with a grain of salt, but definitely check, see what we can do. We can help you with that.
Yeah, and if you want to get in touch with Josh, the team, that link scroll in the bottom there, jebsmith.net/start will get you in touch with them. And if you're one of those people that, you just like to use QR code because you're watching on your TV, there's a QR code up there at the top left that will also get you to the same spot if you scan it. So do that. And while you're doing that, let us know what questions you have. We're going to dive into them right now and hopefully educate some home buyers out there, Josh. So let's see what we've got. We don't have a lot of questions. We've got a lot of comments. We'll go with this one. It's our first question. And also, I think maybe the only one. Everything else is comments. But miscellaneous of the whatever says, hello, does escrow analysis only look at the current year? I am getting a refund, but the monthly payment for the upcoming year is going up. I'm not complaining. I'm getting a refund. So, Josh, what did they look at when they're reevaluating every year?
If it's a small refund and you haven't bought this home recently, I wouldn't worry too much about it. If it's a very large refund, I've had clients get excited about this. There should never be a very large refund from your impound account. And I've seen people get like, hey, I just got $3,000 back. And you're like, that is not correct. It was someone who had bought new construction that the idiot at the company that does the impound analysis looked up the tax rate and it hadn't been reassessed. So the builder's raw land was assessed at $2 and they paid $400,000 for the house. And we're going to get their assessment and their tax bill based off of that. But again, we've got people most likely out of the country that have no idea how our property taxes work, that don't know that doesn't make sense. So be very careful if any of those things apply to you. But do they only look at the current year? They look forward at the next year. So when they do that analysis, they're looking at your current insurance. What's the premium? They're looking at your current assessed value and your annual taxes. And then they look at your monthly payment. And then the software looks forward the next 12 months. And it says, do we ever exceed the amount that we're allowed to have in the account? They're allowed to have a cushion in there to make sure that you have enough. And there is a maximum amount by law. And that forward look says, hey, do we get too much in this account at any point in the next 12 months? And if so, they give you a refund. If you're short at any point of the max cushion that they're allowed to have, they will say, hey, you're $500 short, so we're going to add $42 a month to your payment for the next year.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. He also goes,
hold on. He follows up with the bad news, a $2,600 refund on a new build. Put that money in the bank, because you are exactly what I told you. What we just talked about is exactly what happened to you. A child or someone outside of our country did your escrow impound analysis, and they don't understand that what the property was assessed at is not what the property will be assessed at. And that assessment will be coming, and it will be retroactive to when you purchased that home in most states in the country. So I would reach out to your servicer, and I would ask to talk to a supervisor and see if someone can take a closer look at your analysis and explain to them that this was a purchase of new construction and you don't think this refund is accurate, or you can hold the money because it is going to go back into that impound at some point.
There you go. I was clicking on another one from the same viewer there. So you said they do the yes and subscribe. We're talking about Amazon here, subscribe and save, but their prices change monthly, so it's not always cheaper. That is something I've definitely noticed. Like when I go order products again, if you go into your orders and you can just buy it again, I never do that. I always go and search the product again to figure out if the price is the same, because that's what I worry about. Like, hey, we'll just change that thing a couple bucks. They'll never know because of reordering. I don't know, Josh. I'm cheap like that, man.
Well, I think they do count on that you're not going to watch it and look and see what it is. That's the problem with the internet in general and shopping online. That's how we do all of our shopping now. And they can figure out dynamic pricing. They know from your shopping habits if you're price sensitive or not. And if you're price sensitive, you get better offerings than non-price sensitive buyers.
I feel like there's a lawsuit there, Josh. Orange Pulp. There's a listing that says the seller is offering buyer to take over the rate of 1.9%, but only if the buyer qualifies. Is that legit? I would think that's probably legit. It's probably, it's got to be an assumable loan. FHA or VA is my guess, and it's probably a 15-year loan to some degree. If it's under 2%, would be my guess. I know there were some low VA loans done at some time, but I don't know if they were under 2 without some sort of buy down. I have one right now that is in escrow where I'm representing the seller, and it's the buyer is getting 2.75% on a VA loan with 26 years remaining on that loan. And we're going through the process. It's been a drag a little bit. We're probably 45 days into this and probably still have another 45 left at least to get through it. But yeah, the buyer has to qualify. That's with any mortgage that you get. So
I would bet large amounts of money it's VA. And the reason being is VA and FHA rates are very similar, but on an FHA streamline refinance, which if you're refinancing your FHA, there's a maximum mortgage calculation. So they can't just say, hey, here's 2.5, 3 points, which the call centers love having you pay a bunch of points to get an ultra low interest rate. So below 2%, even on the government stuff, I don't think we ever got there with 0 points. And most FHA buyers don't have extra cash sitting around to pay for the buy down. So I'll bet you it was VA. So as long as you qualify, it's amazing. We should make a video about that, Jeb, of just quantifying what the difference in terms of value, like the difference between 1.9 and to even 5.5 is a monstrous difference in the value of that home.
Oh, agreed. Yeah. If they're going to do that, I feel like the seller can charge somewhat of a premium on that property in order to, when selling it, just because, hey, listen, this is, something that you can take advantage of where nobody else in the neighborhood probably can compete with that. But anyway, Kill Switch basically saying, hey, listen, I'm sitting on the sidelines, but if I were able to get that, then I would, I'd go after it too. Yeah. And that's the thing, is the problem with a lot of the assumable stuff, and this is important to point out to Orange Pulp there, is that if there's equity there, though, this is the kicker. Everybody wants to take over the low rate, but not everyone understands that in order to do that, if there's equity built in that property, you have to come up with that difference, right? So let's say, for example, it was a VA loan. And for example, they bought it for $500,000 back in 2020 or 2021. They've got some equity in that property at this point. It's not a lot, but it might be $10,000, $15,000 or something in that property. Well, in order to buy it, you got to come up with that difference, right? On the property that I'm talking about, we're selling it for just over $1 million. I don't remember what the price was now, $1,050,000 or something like that is what we sold it for. And she only owes $540 something on the mortgage. So the buyer had to come up with over $500,000 to make it work. They had it, so it works, but a lot of people don't have that. And that's where these deals fall apart or they don't make sense for buyers because they don't have that down payment.
Well, here's the crazy follow-up, Jeb, is they actually cut the listing price by 50% since 2022. So there's something very interesting going on with that property. Either they were on crack in 2022 when they listed it, or they really thought that there was monstrous value in it.
Send me the address. I'd be interested. Like, if you have my email, actually just first name.
Send it to info.
Yeah, just send it to info@theeducatedhomebuyer.com. Josh and I'll check it out. I'd be interested to see it myself and just kind of do some, research on it. I love seeing things like that. I like looking at homes across the country too, just because it's interesting versus seeing the same thing over and over here in California. Willing is asking some loan questions.
Auto loan questions, I think.
Well, hold on here. We got some other questions first here. So Caesar says, "Hey Josh, just got my realtor's license. Any recommendations or tips on what I should look for in a broker to hang my license?"
I think you're the right one to answer that, Jeb, and I want to frame it just a little clearer for Caesar. If you're going out and looking for a new broker, I think that's very different than a new licensee. So what would you look for in a new broker to hang your license with, and what would you recommend a newly licensed salesperson do?
Newly licensed, don't get caught up in the shiny objects that the brokerages tell you that they have, right? Every brokerage out there is going to say that they have all of this stuff that's going to, make it efficient and basically do your job for you. The reality is it's going to come down to you doing the prospecting, finding the clients, doing all of that. So no brokerage is going to do that for you for the most part. With that said, I just took in a breath, Josh. I almost like choked. I don't even know what happened. But what I would be looking for if I was newly licensed is some sort of guidance. Is there a mentor there? Is there someone to bounce questions off of? Is there someone that can help me write offers, that can walk me through contracts, that can, kind of just give me the basics of what I need to do, or give me some sort of game plan that I can go out and follow every single day to hopefully become successful as a real estate agent. What most agents think is, hey, listen, I'm just going to get my license and all my friends and family, they're going to list their homes with me. And then that's what's going to be my business. The reality is everybody knows a couple of different real estate agents for the most part, right? Here in Orange County, most people probably know 2 or 3 real estate agents. So it's not just knowing an agent, it's somebody that can provide value and guide you through that process. So, happy to have a chat with you offline, Caesar, and give you some more direction here. But I don't know that you need to go with a big brokerage, but I also, wouldn't necessarily go with the mom and pops either. I would go somewhere probably in between, but you just need to either get on a team or find a mentor or somebody that can guide you. Would be my
helpful to have other people around that can,
sure,
you can learn by osmosis and experience from them.
All right. Willing, do you frown on auto loans, Josh? On the smaller side, I would like to
live his whole life without one.
Oh,
so, are we talking about, Willing is in the mortgage business, for those of you that don't know. Are you talking about as a loan officer seeing auto loans, or me personally with auto loans? I've had auto loans. I attempt to pay them off as quickly as possible. I don't personally like one. For borrowers, does it make sense in the context of their income and their financial life? I see people regularly that have autos that make no sense in the amount of money they make, the amount of savings that they have. So from that perspective, I don't have a problem with someone having an auto loan, but just make sure that it makes sense and it's not keeping you from meeting your goals. Like Jeb knows, I look at new trucks all the time, and I look at it and I go, okay, here's what it's going to cost me for the next 24 months or 36 months to get that thing paid off. And I prefer my old 2017 truck.
I don't disagree with that. It's nice not having car payments. That's for sure. Platinum Black, how often do those assumable VA loans fall through? Still have my eye on a place that went back under contract 2 months ago. So I don't have any real data to provide here. I would think most people going into the assumable loan process, the only reason it falls apart is if the buyer ends up changing their mind for some reason. I would say more often than not, those people are going to qualify, right? Like for the one that I had, they were qualifying. They had $500,000 down and they qualified for over $1 million loan at current interest rate. So there's no world in which they wouldn't qualify at a 2.75% interest rate. So in that case, I think the probability of it falling through is pretty low. But I mean, does it happen? I'm sure it does. It's too difficult to say. I mean, most agents out there are vetting, the clients just so they're not wasting 60, 90 days with somebody that's not going to actually, close the deal.
And what I would say, if we're looking at it going, hey, it's been under contract for 2 months, is something going wrong? With an assumption, you would expect 2 to 4 months. Like 2 months would be fast for it to get done.
All right. Let's see here. Sylvia says, if I am looking for some passive income, can I convert my garage to a studio, rent it out in California? Is it a straightforward process? Forward. Josh, I like Ford and forward are the same word to me. Like the truck and
The Ford truck, straightforward,
forward
Okay.
are the same word. So I just, so if you ever hear me say forward and you're like, he's a truck. No, I'm talking about moving forward. But anyway, can you do that? You still need to get it approved through the city. You can't just convert you can, but it's not legal, right? The state of California says that you can do conversions to garages and add ADUs and that sort of thing. But different cities have different codes. Here in Huntington Beach, it's not as straightforward as that, right? There are definitely different regulations and restrictions. And it's, if there's an HOA, there, could be issues there. So it's not straightforward like you're asking. Is it doable? It is in most cases. It's just, check with the city and see what the process is. I saw another question here, Josh. Grace says, do you recommend investor-friendly realtors around the country? I'm not sure I understand the question. So if the question is, you're looking to buy an investment property and you're trying to find an area of the country to put that, do I know of any realtors that do that sort of thing? The answer is yes. Outside of that, I think I would need more clarification on what the question is, and I can help guide you through the answer there. James, I am under contract with a seller that has their new prospective home contingent upon the sale of the current primary residence they are selling to me. As a buyer, anything I should be concerned about? The downside is if the seller doesn't find the replacement property, right? So your purchase is contingent on them finding a home.
I think he's saying that their purchase is contingent upon his closing.
Oh, no,
which is totally normal.
Yeah, nothing to be concerned with on that front, right? You have to close and then the seller can close on their house. That would be the process. Anything to be concerned with? Timelines, perhaps, right? The seller's going to need, if they need the proceeds from the sale of their home because of your closing, they're going to need, if you close on, say, a Monday, they're probably going to need a couple of extra days for that money to make it into escrow or title or whatever, get wired out to the other escrow title company in order for that one to close and them to be able to move out. So you just need to be able to fill that gap with a couple of days. That's really the only concern. Outside of that, nothing that I can really think of. But if you have additional questions, just drop it in there and we'll answer them. Let's see. They want to stay in the home 3 days after closing. Completely normal. That would be, they would need to, for the most part. In fact, I have one right now where we're selling their property. They're buying new construction and they need the proceeds from this to close that property. Can it happen in the same day? It can. You need some sort of buffer there just in case, right? Because depending on the area, the county, whatever, like here in Orange County where we're located, when a loan funds, it can actually record that same day and the buyer can get keys that day. In LA County, which is, depending on where you are in LA County, you can go 15 minutes down the road and be in LA County. And if it funds on, today, it can't record until tomorrow. So that delay needs to be factored in there. So I wouldn't be concerned with the request. All right. Josh, do mortgage lenders switch or get recruited to other companies often, like real estate agents?
Pretty similar. It's more common. We've talked about the different types of lenders, whether you're a broker, direct lender. If you're a direct lender, do you work for a bank or do you work for an independent mortgage bank? In that independent mortgage bank world, they love recruiting top producing lenders from other firms and even going so far as to give giant signing bonuses that generally lead to higher rates and fees with those lenders. And then also unhappy loan officers being stuck with a contract where they have to kind of earn out that signing bonus. I'm talking $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 signing bonuses, which basically it's a projection on, hey, in the last 3 years, you've done this much production. If you bring that over here, it's worth this much to us. We'll give you that check up front. So I don't think they're all that different. What do you think, Jeb?
No, I see it happen. Some of the bigger names, teams out there that are working with banks oftentimes will make a move from one bank to another. Like some other lenders that I use on occasion that are friends of mine. I mean, they've been at Wells Fargo, Bank of America, US Bank, just moved to New American Funding. I mean, they're moving around to all of these different places because my guess is it's some sort of incentive for them and potentially, their clients. There's maybe some sort of bonus there in incentive wise to be able to do that, and upfront money. A lot of times, like Josh said, there's some sort of payday for bringing business over and staying with the company. But there's usually some sort of contract as well, which basically means that you got to stay here, X amount of time. Yeah, you're trapped. I've been there on the real estate side, and it's nice up front, but when you want to make that move, it kind of sucks. Anyhow, what do we got, Mr. Lewis?
We're light on questions. You guys we've answered all the questions over the last 5 years.
Should we play the song again?
We can play the song again. You can ask questions about the writing of the song, how long Jeb slaved over the lyrics, the performer, the celebrity performer that we have singing the song. I mean, if you can guess, we can give you a bonus for that.
I felt like, so I saw something today. It's like one of the AI bands. It's like trending at the top of Spotify. It's like the Velvet Ropes or the Velvet something. Like, people had no idea that this was AI. I don't know that I've ever heard them, but it's
a scam all the way around. They have bots that are going and listening to it. So then it works its way up the charts. And then other people go, well, other people are listening to this. Let me listen to it. Spotify can throw it in other people's playlists. Because if you look at it, everything about, you can't tell from hearing it, but if you look at all of their images, like, those are not real people.
When you go watch them in concert,
when you watch them in concert, you're really clear those are not humans.
There's no one up there. Too funny. It's like Milli Vanilli. Josh, do you in the audience know who Milli Vanilli is? That's what I want to know. Not do you know who? Did you listen to Blame It on the Rain? Was it 90s or was that the 80s, Josh?
That was the late 80s, like 89, I believe. And here's the thing. Everyone likes to bust on Milli Vanilli because they were not real. But
they were real. They were real people.
If you had your Nissan truck in 1989, you were bombing Blame It on the Rain.
For
as you
sure
were cruising around with your 18-inch woofers. Like, let's just be realistic about it.
Yeah, JBLs just in the back, so just making the truck rattle. Yeah, I didn't have a car in 89.
I had some 18-inch Rockfords in the back just pounding. My dad would come out and yell and say, turn that off. I'm like, you can't hear it. And then now being an adult and knowing, like, you could hear it from like 5 miles away. So why I was trying to tell my dad that he couldn't hear it, I don't know.
Too funny. All right. Let's see.
Orange Pulp wants to know if he should post that listing, and you can pull it up and we can live stream it. And
let's do it.
Let's do it. Throw it in there, Orange Pulp. We got no questions, so we're going to do a live breakdown of a 50% price cut on a home,
and we're going to try to tell you what we think about it. There we go. Let's give me the address. We're going to pull this thing up. We're just going to use Zillow, make it easy. All right, waiting on you.
We didn't tell him fast enough. And going on something else.
All good. He's still here. She, he, I don't know. Orange Pulp.
Them.
What are we thinking? Do not buy a Jeep. Junk I own. One major electric. There you go. Well, Josh, it's really quiet here. We don't have a lot going on this evening. What are we doing?
Patrick still has his car from 89.
Ooh, I had an 89 Honda Accord. That was my first car.
An 89 Accord? My first was
in 96.
Mine was an 89 Toyota pickup in 90.
Oh, so you had like a new car.
It had 3,000 miles on it. Someone bought it and was over their skis, and my mom bought it for them for significantly less. My mom liked to do things like that.
Oh, well, it's smart, I had the Honda Accord. I think mine probably already had like 100,000 miles on it in like 6 years of whatever before I owned it. And I'm pretty sure that thing's still running.
Mine had 2,500 miles on it when I got it. And I had like 129 on it when I sold it. So Patrick's was a Beretta.
Ooh, the old Beretta. Look at that thing.
And Willing comes back and says that Gwen wants a Wrangler or a Gladiator. No one wants a Gladiator. There's no one on the planet that wants a Gladiator. So let's just say that.
All right. So we don't have a lot of questions. So we're going to go with Sylvia. Has the market slowed at all now that we're heading into the holiday season? So I think there are definitely markets out there that have slowed down. I was talking to somebody today. I went to a conference earlier, talking to some other real estate agents. And I would say like May through early August, the market had kind of shifted, not into a full buyer's market, but more so into a buyer's market than we've seen in a long time. In a lot of markets out there. Now, some markets are still hot, as you saw from that heat map earlier. But once rates started to come down, got below 6.5%, moved closer to 6%, I saw activity pick up. I had a couple listings on the market that all of a sudden they had been sitting. All of a sudden, everything went under contract. And now I'm writing offers and they're multiple offer situations and things are selling above the asking price. So has it slowed? I think it has in some markets. It's just kind of continuing, not where it was a couple of years ago, but there's definitely activity out there. I mean, you see pending contracts are up. You see, that buyer demand is still out there. Mortgage applications jumped as soon as rates came down. So there's people on the fence just waiting just about the right property. So when the right one comes out, or comes up rather, you get people willing to make offers on them. So it's local. Pay attention to your market. Josh, Orange Pulp just ditched us.
Just leaving us hanging. They went and found a TV show or a baseball game.
Got us excited and left. Not much of a baseball guy, Josh, but baseball playoffs are good. Not a Yankees fan, not a Blue Jays fan. Great game last night.
I don't pay attention until we at least get to the championship series.
I mean,
a little too early for me.
Good game, really good game. I enjoyed watching it. This is the only time I enjoy watching baseball. Anyhow, that's what we're talking about now because that's where we are in the show. Anyhow, should we just wrap this up and cut it? Is that what we're doing?
I think so. We got no more questions. Angel Eyes did say they have a 64 Riviera as the first vehicle. I like that.
Toyota Camry, 2005 Toyota Camry. Oh,
with 184,000 miles.
I like it. Are we going to dress up for Halloween, Josh?
My dog is going to dress up as a skunk for Halloween. Does that count?
No. Are you going to show up on Wednesday, the 29th?
Dressed as a skunk as well?
Dressed as a skunk.
I will probably not. I don't know, the 29th. You can't dress up. Don't be the weirdo that you had a party like 2 days before Halloween and you're
people already having Halloween parties now.
Yeah, no. You dress up on Halloween or you don't dress up at all.
All right. Well, guys, not a lot of stuff here. So I'm just going to promote the show. If you don't listen to the Educated Homebuyer podcast, you should. If you haven't rated and reviewed it, you should. If you haven't subscribed, you should. And here on my channel, if you're not subscribed, I understand why. I mean, we do this sort of podcast. Why would you even be a part of this? I mean, who would want to listen to this sort of thing? But we appreciate you. And we appreciate you showing up. If you want to get in touch with Josh, there's a link scroll on the bottom of the screen. What do we got here? Platinum Black has he's got his deceased grandpa's 90s Thunderbird. It smelled like an ashtray on
wheels.
Oh, yeah. My dad used to
we found our audience's passion here. They want to talk about the cars of their youth. What we should do is have them all send in pictures and we can just do a carousel and show everyone's pictures.
I'm down for that. I think that I would get behind that. Yeah, I was hot boxed in the car as a kid. Like Dad would smoke in there. It wasn't allowed to roll down the windows. If I'd roll down the windows, you got yelled at, you're wasting the air conditioning, one of those. And you just couldn't breathe. It was fantastic.
No, not.
And my parents gave me Tylenol, so that's why I'm here.
And Angela's parents, when she was a kid, smoked in the car, and she's like, "I just can't believe that. I can't believe they ever smoked. They've been non-smokers for 40 plus years." But Dixieland says he had a $50 1970 Chevy Nova with big tires and 2x4s in the leaf spring, so the tires fit. I'll bet you it rode like a dream. I'll bet you it rode
absolutely.
Like a dream.
All right, here we go. Do we have any advice for people moving from a modern cost of?
I think it meant moderate cost of living to a high cost of living city. Would be my advice.
I'm
hoping there's a commensurate adjustment to income coming along with the additional high costs.
Yeah, I mean, the advice is budget well, right? I mean, kind of know what you're getting into. I think the part of it you've already done is knowing that, you're moving from an area of lesser that's not quite as expensive to a more expensive area. So important to know there. But outside of that, not really a lot of advice. Avoid it at all cost if you can. If not, you gotta be frugal where you can and do your best. That's the only advice I got. All right, Josh. Not a lot of questions here. Adios.